Hey guys, let's talk about exercise bands. I've got a pretty sturdy one here from Rogue Fitness. You see, it's kind of big. You can do a lot with it. We're going to get into that in a second. These come in different sizes and different thicknesses. Sometimes it's a little band that's real easy to wrap, like wrap around your knees, wrap around your ankles to do different things. This one is a little bit harder to use for those purposes, although I'll show you kind of a way to kind of halfway get there. But if you had just a single exercise band just laying around, or if you wanted to order one, I would probably get one that's a little bit less intense than this green one. But anyways, here's what I like best about the exercise band. For use at home right now is that one of the things I like best about it is that it gives you the opportunity to do some pulling, which sometimes can be the hardest movement pattern to incorporate into your workouts without equipment, right? Like if you think about pushing, you can do push-ups, you can go out and you could throw a ball that way, you could do push-ups, you could do a lot of things to practice pushing with some resistance. If you think about squatting, right, you can just do squats in the air. You can work your abs with sit-ups. Hinging the hips, you could kind of work on jumping. That hinging one is a little bit tougher without equipment. And then that leaves you with needing to do some pulling. And a lot of times you just can't really do that unless you have some weights or unless you have a pull-up bar. And for a lot of people, pull-up bar isn't really appropriate. So exercise band for pulling. That's the first. If you were taking notes, you write pulling. Okay, that's going to be your first good use for your band at home, and I'll show you a couple of good pulling exercises. So first of all, I like to work across the upper back muscles that when you are hunched over, you're working your desk or whatever, those get overstretched and weak, and then we get stuck in a position like this with tight pecs and our shoulders are messed up and our posture looks bad and we can't breathe so well, and that's it. This is just a bad scene all around. That needs to be opened up. In order to do that, just strengthen those upper back muscles. So what I'm going to do is a little band pull apart. I'm going to get a little more slack on one side, and I'm just going to, with one arm, I'm just going to extend to the back. On the other side, here. I'm doing that one at a time because this band is so thick. If your band was a little easier to handle, you could pull apart like this. Try to keep your shoulders down. If you start doing this, right, then you're compensating for weakness back there. So try to drop your shoulders and see if this were too difficult. Guess what? I would just go out a little more, right? I might go out here. Go, oh, okay, I can do that, right? I couldn't do it with my hand over here, but when I spread out a little bit more, oh, that's not as hard, right? So you make some adjustments in the tension just by spreading your hands a little bit farther apart. All right, so the band pull apart for the upper back. And I'll do about, I'll hit this a few times a week, do like 2 sets of 15 up high and get a good burn going there. Not a tremendously useful exercise unless you plan on spending some time going to the beach and taking everybody to the gun show. But bicep curl you could do with a heavy band like this. What I'm going to do is stand on the band. Right, I'm going to stand on it, and again, adjusting the tension just by adjusting how much band I have access to. And then I tried to curl this one. Like, boy, that's actually pretty heavy. So I'm going to give that line a little more slack. I'm going to stand on a different spot. I go here. I'm going to get in a little square stance and tighten my belly, keep my elbow in one spot, and I can hit some bicep curls here. Not the most comfortable thing in the world, but that's doable. All right, you can do the other side as well. And then, similarly, you could get in position. I'm going to back up so you can see this position a little better. I could really work my larger back muscles by stretching out a square stance and driving my elbow up here. Just doing a little bit of a one arm row. Again, not the perfect angle, a little bit awkward, but at least you're engaging some of those pulling muscles to go along with your pushing. I think the main reason people buy these is to work on doing some like joint distractions for different kind of stretches you're trying to do. Like I use them for my ankles. I will use them for like a banded downward dog. If you could connect this to a hook up high, like I'll get this here around my hips, be hooked high, and I'm doing that downward dog stretch, and it's just pulling my back out. Kind of feels like I'm getting some nice separation and relieving some tension in the low back. You can get this hooked into your hip, so if I'm on the floor, you guys can see I'm going to angle down a little bit. There we go. I can connect to, probably not for real, the table leg. You might have to go in the basement and get like a post or something like that. But you go around, you can go into the hip here, like into the hip, and I can work on, get a little tension on that, and just work on that hip glide, getting that hip flexion here. Sometimes a little downward pressure there will help you do your hip flexion the right way. I could bring this over and get a nice outer hip stretch with some band assistance this way. So stretching, you know, a lot of times people have PT things that they've been shown with the band, and if they have a band at their house, and then it makes it easier to continue on with that stuff. I'll show you a hamstring stretch I really like. Better than sitting on the floor in a sort of a closed chain, you can come up here and pull this in, but then you can also go kind of across diagonally with it. Like to sometimes just bring it to the outside, and then I'll also manipulate the foot position. Like I might roll my ankle to the outside, and then that hamstring stretch feels totally different. I roll it to the inside and pull in, and so I can just play around and do a lot of things with that one leg as long as I've got a sturdy band to use. So strengthening, stretching, doing a lot of your PT things that you might know about if you had an injury. Not a bad idea to have a band around. If you have one around and you just want to grab it and use it for something, that's kind of the focus of this video. But if you really wanted to have bands for different purposes, I would say get one that's nice and big and sturdy that you can put around your hip or around your waist. I would get another one that is maybe 3/4 of this, and then I think you want a couple smaller ones that are real easy to manipulate. You know what? I gotta show you a bonus real quick. Some really good band exercise that almost everybody could benefit from is a little monster walk. If you had one that was more like this, like the smaller ones, you could put that around your knees. As you get better at it, you can put it around your feet. But then what you do, so I'm going to feed this through and hold it, but you'd kind of push out to a horse stance, and you would just keep everything tight and work on pushing your shin bone to the side, and you really activate some of these gluteal muscles that are weak in a lot of folks and cause different kinds of malfunctions. So that you could add that monster walk in. But bands are cool. You can do a lot with them. They don't take up any space. They're not all that expensive. Not a bad idea to pick up a couple of those.